Welcome to WWETV, what the world is watching, worldwideentertainmenttv.com.
Muhammad Ali was more than a fighter.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces. Notification of his refusal is being made to the United States Attorney, the State Director of the Selective Service System, and the local Selective Service Board for whatever action deemed to be appropriate.
Fingerprinted and having your picture taken upstairs.
Oh, it's just a new experience. I've never been in jail or I've never done nothing wrong. During my past 25 years here on this planet, I've never been arrested or never seen a jail, and it's just something new, you know.
When a man's guilty, you just don't say you guilty. You hold court, and then you find him guilty and prove it, and the public and the jury is satisfied, and then you say he's guilty, then you condemn him. You just don't tell a man he murdered somebody without giving him a chance to explain or without letting the world see why you're condemning him. So if I'm going to be condemned, if the world, heavyweight championship is going to be taken from me, then show everybody why. You know, I don't know why, so I want to know why is it that you're doing it.
And I say this morning that it is my hope that every young man in this country who finds this war objectionable and abominable and unjust would file as a conscientious objector. And no matter what you think of Mr. Muhammad Ali's religion, you certainly have to admire his courage.
Certainly, we dedicate this program today and this gathering to the memory of my friend and brother, the greatest of all times, Muhammad Ali. Brother Brevon sung the song, The Greatest, and that was the theme song to the movie on Muhammad Ali that Muhammad Ali starred in himself. This is not what Will Smith did. Ali first did his own film. You can tell folks' age by which Ali film they went to, or which song, The Greatest, they know, because The Greatest was in that film. Whitney Houston redid the song. She didn't start the song. So when I told Dominique to have him do The Greatest, she said, oh, Whitney's song. No, Whitney didn't start that song. Now, I didn't know all of that. Hardy told me. I'm a Whitney person. But let me say, and I'm going to say a lot about Ali. I've known Ali since I was 19. And the reason I was late coming to the stage is I was exchanging texts with his widow. I've known Lonnie, his widow, since just about since they were married, because we have communicated until even this morning. And I will be going to the services for him at her invitation on Thursday in Louisville, among many others that will be attending from around the world. And I will talk more about that. And we will be doing a series of things to memorialize him. 3 o'clock this afternoon, we are going to join Spike Lee at his block party for Prince and do a memorial for Muhammad Ali because he was that kind of figure. One of the things I'll never forget in 1981, when I was in my 20s, James Brown and Muhammad Ali took me on the Tom Snyder show with them to talk about their concerns about young people and how they felt I was a youth leader to deal with this in 1981. And to have two of the most iconic figures introduce you the first time on network television shows the kind of people they were and the kind of person Ali was. So you're going to hear a lot of people talking about Ali over the next few days that didn't know him and didn't understand what he meant. He started as one of the most despised and hated men in the country. And our children need to know the real story. Everybody was not on Ali's side. When he became the champion, he was Cassius Marcellus Clay. One of the few memories I had of my father was that my father took me to a closed circuit theater to see Ali fight Liston, because my father had been a boxer. I was about 9 years old. Everybody had bet Liston was going to close this big mouth up. And they sat there stunned as this young man danced and took the title and announced a few days later he was a member of the Nation of Islam, and his name was Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali. It took courage to do that. It put a lot on the line. But then that was only the prelude to when he refused to fight in the war in Vietnam and was convicted as a draft dodger, sentenced to 5 years in jail, and never blinked. Can you imagine being the top of your field, heavyweight champ of the world, endorsements, money, and you decide you're going to take a stand? And the world denounced him. People would pay to go to fights to see him beat. But he stood right there. And because he stood for something, the whole world turned around and started honoring and respecting him. He went from being despised to the most loved and renowned person on the planet because he stood for something. He said, in what you do in your life, as you fight for justice, you gotta fight when you are weary. And if you don't train for the weary days, you'll never take the best out of you. That is lessons I learned from Ali. He sat there talking, and he loved to talk to me about James Brown. He said James Brown was his favorite artist, and I was like James Brown's son. And then I said, let me ask you a question. When you stood up to the draft, what gave you the courage to stand up? He said, well, I didn't even think about it as courage. He said, I believed that I should not fight that war. I believed that I was a minister of religion and should be exempt. I said, but how did you know it would work out? He said, I didn't know it would work out. He said, everybody gave me different ways that I could justify going in the army. He said, Joe Louis had won, others had gone. Elvis Presley had gone. They find ways that you could not get in danger. They find ways to do different things. He said, but when I stood there in Houston, that's where he was at the induction center, and they called my name. He said, I thought about what I believed in, and they told me to step forward, and I wouldn't step forward. They called my name again, and I wouldn't step forward. He said they took me in the back and explained to me it was a federal crime and that I could be prosecuted and sentenced to jail. And I wouldn't change my mind. He said, that's when you know what you really believe in. Is when it looks like it's all over and you don't know what's gonna happen, but you stand by what you believe. The reason why most folk never get nowhere is you looking to step out on what you call faith with guaranteed results. Faith is when there are no guarantees. Faith is when you don't know what's gonna happen. Faith is when it looked like it'll never go your way, but you got to stand up anyhow. Everybody that laughed at Ali, that denounced Ali, the boxers that took his title have been gone and forgotten. But all over the world today, from New York to Havana to Hanoi to Chicago to Peking, the world stopped because a man took the risk of believing in who he was and what he stood for. Celebrity, stardom is one thing. All you got to do is do something a little different to be famous. But it's a big difference between being famous and being great. Whoever became heavyweight champion after Ali was famous, but you couldn't call their name because they haven't done nothing great. You couldn't tell me who the heavyweight champion is today. So why do we all know a man that was heavyweight champion 45 years ago and don't know who a heavyweight champion is today? That's what every athlete, every entertainer ought to think about, is what are they going to say about me 40 years from now? Why do they honor Ali and will they honor me? Because he stood for something. And by standing for something, he made us stronger and he made us better. But let me also tell you, he was gracious. One of the things that I always liked about being around Ali, a reporter asked me this morning, well, in the ring, he was so violent, he could sting, he knocked people out. He was very gentle, always cracking jokes. I mean, he was one of the funniest guys you could be around.
That makes me rumble. Don't we rumble? Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ah, rumble, young man, rumble. Hey! That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rumble.
Say, Jim, you think I could have a float like a butterfly? Bam.
Well,
Sting like a bee?
well, you got the butterfly part down, Brother Michael, and you sing real sweet to complete the cycle. But before you can sting people out of their wits, you gotta put on some meat and keep on eating your grits.
Man, you cold, man.
WWETV on YouTube. Follow us.